In this video, we'll look at the steps required to create the bridge approach that you can see here in RoadEng location module. So we've got a small segment of road. We're not going to cover how one aligns a road in RoadEng. That's another topic. In the profile window, you can see we've inserted a bridge, and we're looking at the cross section near the south abutment. Just ahead of that, or back from that, we're in bridge. There's nothing there. And then as we move down the road, you can see that the road is just an ordinary road. So what have we done to create this 3D model in all its garish colors? What we've done here is, first of all, we've taken a bridge which has been modeled in facets. We've aligned it to the road. We've also done a pre-excavation, the purple, and we've added some Armour, that's the yellow. And all of this is displayed in the 3D window. And I will go through step by step the process to get here. Unfortunately, I will not be covering the details of creating the bridge, but I will cover the orientation. In this section, I'm going to bring a representation of a bridge and show it in my road design. So you can see this is a bridge approach. We've got a simple profile here, plan, 3D view, and of course my bridge, which is defined here as it's roughly a 60-foot bridge, works out to just over 18 meters plus the abutments. So I need to bring in a 3D representation of that bridge. I have that in terrain, and there's quite a story behind how you create this, but it's much easier to create any 3D structure if you work in a simple north-south orientation with well-known coordinates. For example, the bottom of my center line here is 0, 0, 100. So I can easily add features, and I know where the coordinates are going to be, and I can even use features like this tool here to type in coordinates, or use the survey format to put in lengths and angles. And of course, west is 90 degrees, north is 0 degrees, because everything's lined up. Okay, so I've made my 3D object, and now I want to orient it to line up with my road. How the heck am I going to do that? Well, let's go back to the road. First thing we do is make something to reference it to. So I'm going to save my design as a terrain, and in that terrain, the most important thing is the center line. I'm putting in a bit of extra information to give me a 3D rendering. Let's see what that looks like. So I've saved my alignment out to the terrain module, and it looks like this. And if we put that into 3D, it looks like that. Okay. Now this is a terrain, and it's got well-defined coordinates, and there's the end of my bridge there. This point here is the important one. There's a little asymmetry. That's the end of the bridge right there. There's these 3 points. Okay, now I'm going to save this and go back to my well, let's go and create a brand new terrain here, an empty terrain, and put this in the background. I want the alignment features in the background so that when I'm finished with aligning my bridge, I don't have to worry about which features to select. The bridge is all by itself. So here we have the segment of road as a terrain in the background. Now back to my bridge, I'm just going to select the whole thing. It's a bunch of facet features, or at least almost all of them are facet features. The center line isn't. And I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, go back to my empty terrain with a background and paste it in there. This is nice. The paste special allows you to put it in the center of the screen. Otherwise it would appear at 0, 0, 100, which could be way off the screen, and you'd have to move it a lot. So it's close, but it's not in the right spot. How am I going to get it lined up? Well, two things I need to do. One is orient it in the plan view, so let's do that first. Move size by vectors. I mean, I could try and do it by rectangle. You know, if I there we go. So I can move it with the mouse, and I can rotate it with the mouse, and I can try and get it lined up that way. But if we want to do things accurately, by vectors is much better. So here we go. I've got one little vector here off the end. You can see it there. And what it is it's a start point, which I want to be at the end of my center line here. Zoom in to make it perfectly accurate. And then I've got the end point, the arrowhead, and I put that at the other end where I want it to join on. And in this case, it's this point here. Oh, I can snap to that point, but I need to turn on background snapping. So I'll go back to my background options and select the background feature and change it to include snapping. There we go. Well, that's one end. Let's add another point here. And that's going to go roughly down here somewhere. And the point that we want to move is, again, the other end of the center line. So this one here, we want it to move over to there. Snap it to that point. These two arrows define where the endpoints are going to move. Now I have a choice. Do we want to allow scaling and stretching? In this case, no. But if you had a situation where you wanted the object to become smaller or bigger, you could leave that turned on. I don't. I just want it to line up as close as possible to those 2 points, and there it is. Now the nice thing here is that this is only one set of features, the bridge, and the rest is in the background. What about the elevation? I got the XY correct, and now I need to select the center line. And note that the elevation is at 10 meters. When you do the paste to center of screen, it moves. So it moved from 100 to 10. And back to my design, the elevation that I actually want to see here is 41 meters. Okay, so that's the elevation I want. Here's my bridge. All I need to do to move it to that elevation is select everything. Make sure that the center line is the current feature, and it is in this case. And then use the shift operation to move it to the new coordinate 41. So I leave the XY where it is, but change the elevation Z. Done. And now the elevation of that point is 41. And of course the previous point at the other end is also 41. The bridge is in position. Now let's save it. Already got one in here. I'll just call it, save on top of it, call it bridge. Back to my design, and let's put it in the background. So add the bridge 3D representation as a terrain in the background, and there it is in plan. Looks good. Let's look at it in 3D. To do is update my 3D lists here. Yeah, there are some options to set up the display of that thing, and I think the default is fine, but just in case it was set up before, you have the option to display features or triangles and surfaces, I think all you need is display features, and the facets will appear in your 3D render. My bridge is in place. Now I want to work on building the abutments. I need to excavate and then backfill with some armor that will form the pad that the bridge sits on. Let's look again at our bridge document and look at it in 3D. So the important bit is the bottom of the bridge, pier here where the piles go. This feature here, I can select it. It's called bottom of cap. That I'm going to reference everything further, all my further design work. I'm going to use that to reference. So I need that one, and I might as well get the one from the other end. Have them both selected, and I'll just copy those to the clipboard and put them in a new terrain. And those are somewhat below the elevation of the road. You can see they're actually at elevation 40.15. I'm just going to save that for future reference. And I'm also going to put the surface in the background so we can see what's going on. So the original ground surface is called topo. There I've added it. Let's see what that looks like in 3D. Just turn on the shading for the original ground. There we go. I might want it transparent later, not sure if I need it now, but that's now a transparent surface. And you can see where the top of the armor goes, the bottom of the bridge cap goes. Those features are useful. I'm going to save this file for later. Now, I'd like to use those features now to design an excavation. Copy them to the clipboard again. Again, I'm going to, well, actually, you know what? I'm just going to do a save as here. I don't need to put it into a new file every time. So this is where I'm going to do the excavation. And I want these to be down a meter because I need a meter of fill under my cap. So I'll just select them and move them down. I've already got them selected. Let's just move them down by using the shift operation. So they're sitting at 40.15, a little bit underneath the roadway, which is 41. I'll change this to 39.15. Okay, so those two features are the top of my excavation. I want the excavation to go down towards the river, and here's what I came up with. First of all, I don't want to excavate the whole thing backwards. Okay, so I'm going to take out this back piece here. Using Control Q to break, and then I just join those two little pieces together. Okay, so whoops, missed. There we go. Same on the other side. Right, so that feature, so I grade the bottom of the capping material, the armor material. I grade it out at, in this case, 100%, down to my defined river bottom elevation, actually just below the elevation of the river. Let's just look at that. It says here that the surface is 35.8, so I'm grading down to 35. And I'm putting in some interpolated points. I'm going at 100%, which is actually a little bit steeper than my final armor. You'll see how that works. And there it is. So I want to cut this stuff away, and then I want to cut back up to topo. So I'm going to expand this feature here, the toe. I'm going to change the name of that. I'll just call it toe. And I'm going to buffer it out by 1 meter. And I'm going to keep the same elevation. And then I'm going to build a back wall here. It'll also be called, now this is called tin boundary. Oops, I forgot to, that often happens. I forgot to click the apply button. There we go. Now they're both called toe. And I don't think I want it to go and wrap around like that. So I'm going to break it here. That's the control Q or features break. Feature tools break. And then I'm going to take that feature and make it into a closed polygon. And I'm going to snap it onto the back like so. Okay, so that D-shaped polygon is the bottom of my excavation and the middle of my excavation, but it may or may not be near the ground. Let's grade that out. Looks like I've got an extra point in there. I'm just going to remove it. Let's grade that shape up to the surface. See what that looks like. So again, grading tool. This time I want to pick a cut angle that makes sense. The cut angle should be steep, I think. Let's go at 2:1. And again, I'm going to insert some extra points if there aren't enough. This time I want to calculate a surface and calculate volumes. No contours, good. Plus is 2:1. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Oh, now I'm not grading to a file anymore. I mean, I'm not grading to the known elevation. I'm grading to the topo. And there we go. So what we're doing now is we are cutting back from that bottom of my excavation up to topo, wherever it happens to intersect topo. And I think I picked the wrong slope. It's going farther than I expected. In fact, it's going into the river here. Let's just see what I did wrong. Right, I picked 50%. I actually meant to do 1/2 which is 200%. We'll do that for both. The cut, the fill doesn't matter. I don't think there is any fill. I'll leave that where it is. That's better, much smaller. And it's showing me a fill volume here. That's because I need to set this to the original ground. That's correct. So that's a cut volume. There's a tiny bit of fill, nothing serious. And it looks sensible. You can imagine filling that up with riprap to make the base of the abutment, and it will prevent scouring, and it actually goes down below the level of the river. Perfect. I need to do that on the other side, and then I've got my excavation. Now I need to use my excavation as the base for my Armour fill. So this is a perfectly good surface. Let's save it. It's called sub-excavation. And to merge into the original ground, we open the original ground. In this case, it's just called topo. And immediately do a save as so that we don't get our topo destroyed in the process. I've already got a file in here, but I'm going to save on top of it. It's going to be called topo plus sub-excavation. Merge in the file I just created, which is sub-excavation 2, and then recalculate the surface. And what does that look like? It looks like some holes ready for some rock armor. Now that I have an excavation, let's create the armor itself. So let's go back to my Bridge 0 document. And remember, these are the bottom of the bridge pads, and they're at the right elevation for the top of the armor, so I don't need to change them. So let's just save this under a new name and grade them down to the correct surface. So I'm going to call this armor, and each of these things is going to be graded down not to this original ground surface, but rather to topo plus sub-excavation. So I don't need topo here anymore. Let's just remove it and work from this other background. The background, it's nice to have the background. It's not a requirement. Grading operation, you can just tell it what file to go to, but it's nice to see what you're doing. So let's make sure that this is visible in my 3D. And again, I'm not sure I need it transparent, but I'm going to do that just in case. Okay, so there's my sub-excavated surface, and you can see right away that my caps are sitting up above it, which is good. Now I want to take those caps and grade out the armor. So I can select either one of them. Now I noticed that it's a facet because I extracted it from the bridge. I'm just going to turn that off. It's not necessary here. Make it into a modeled feature. And now this is going to be my new armor surface. Let's just grade it out. This feature is going counterclockwise. So I want to grade to the left. Grade to the left, grade down to the excavated surface, and I need to pick a slope here. I'm going to choose a slightly different slope. The excavation is at 100%. I'm going to put my armor at 70%, and that's the fill slope there, the minus slope. So it's going to be a little thicker at the bottom. And this is a full surface, so I can calculate volumes. Well, this will tell us how much material we need. Let's go. Okay, and this is correct. It is fill, and there it is. So you can see that surface. I've got the wrong side showing. There it is. There's my surface. Oh, there's not perfect triangles around here. I would get a better surface if these lines were break lines. That's an option. Let's just see what happens. Sometimes the problem with that is that you end up with some crossing break lines, but I'll try it, see what happens. Set break line property on my slope lines. Those are the red dashed lines. Okay, no crossing break lines. And my surface looks great. There's the armor material. It spills a tiny little bit here, not a big deal. I like it. I'll do the same on the other side. We're almost done. Now we need to take this surface and merge it into the excavated surface so that we have the surface ready for our road design. The surface that our road references when designing the actual crossing cross sections for the bridge. Okay, so again, I need to save this and I need to reopen, in this case, topo plus sub-excavation. And then I'm going to save as. there's my topo plus sub excavation. Let's save it as topo plus sub excavation plus Armour. And now let's merge in the Armour. And retin. Now that surface is what the road will actually see as it comes across. So let's save that and go back to our road design and insert it. Back to our location design, let's swap out the original ground surface with the new one. So we started off with the original ground as topo. Now I'm going to change it to our new combined merged surface and update everything. Okay, you can see it in plan here, you can see it in the cross section, and you can sort of see it in 3D. It's kind of hard to notice, but there is a difference now between the original ground surface in here, but we can add the surfaces more explicitly. So there's my original ground with everything in it, but I'm going to add the surfaces explicitly here. When you add a terrain from the terrain surfaces dialog box, you're also adding a reference surface, so you can display it in other places. And I want to put in two things. First of all, my sub excavation. Let's give it a nice purpley color. And I also want to add the Armour. And I'm going to give that kind of a yellowy color. And that's all I need to do. So those reference surfaces are now on my list, and I can choose the way they get displayed. First of all, let's see what the default looks like. There we go. So it's just displaying the line work. Back to 3D options. Let's go to sub excavation, display the triangles, and I want that purpley color. I'm not sure why it didn't remember the color. And make sure that it's opaque. Then Armour, that's the right color. That's opaque. Okay. Oh, I don't need the features. Let's turn those off. Same with sub excavation. I don't need the features. Just the surface itself. There, that looks nice and clean. Where did my bridge go? Let's just turn that back on. I can also add that as a terrain. You can also do it in the plan background. It doesn't make any difference for the bridge because it's not a reference surface. And the color won't make any difference because the facets aren't going to be displayed as triangles. So bridge, we just want the features. There we go. Now those reference features can be displayed elsewhere. For example, in the profile window here, I can turn on reference surfaces and I can display whichever ones I want to see. Let's turn on just the Armour, see what that looks like. And there it is. So there's the Armour. It's using the same color that we saw in our terrain surfaces, and I can update that right from the profile if I want to. Of course, it's grossly distorted because my profile is a 10:1 distortion, but you can see where the Armour is, and that distance below the road there. Well, let's just measure it. I think it was something less than a meter. So there's the road surface, and down there is the bottom of the bridge or the top of the Armour, and that is about 0.85 meters. You can also intersect the bridge features if you want. I think I'll leave it at that for now.